Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lewis.
Welcome to the Rangers Journal.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Rangers Journal. It is me, Billy, this evening, joined by two great guests. Ryan, first of all, mate, you all right?
Doing fine, buddy. This is my first pod, coming back after being away for a few weeks. So I'm a wee bit down in the dumps, but I'm looking forward to Rangers getting back into action to cheer me up, hopefully.
So we'll be back in action soon, mate, and we'll be back to full pod schedule as normal. Scotty, you've had your summer holidays off. You're back. It's time to get to work. How are you, mate?
Aye, no bad at all, Billy. No bad at all. As Ryan says, he's got a post-holiday blues haven't quite hit me yet, but they will in the next couple of days, and that's what it is, isn't it? Looking forward to Rangers getting back and getting my moans out again.
Well, once you get back to work, that's when the blues come back for me anyway, because you're actually faced with the reality that you're not going on holiday for another wee while anyway. But what we're here to talk about is not holidays, we're here to talk about the Rangers midfield. Scotty, you gave us a wee text earlier on saying you fancy a chat about this midfield, and Ryan, mate, you've sent through a list of midfielders and all possible midfielders that might come to us. But it's certainly a place that we are overran, not necessarily with overrun with quality, but certainly overran with players. I'm not even going to attempt to count that off the top of my head. But let's talk about some new signings first of all. Scotty, Dan Neil, you're more interested in the English game than I've been. Recent years being a Leeds United fan. What was your thoughts on Dan Neil? We did a pod about him a couple of weeks back where we got a boy for down there to talk about him. But what's your thoughts on him?
It's hard because you've got this stigma label that comes with signing championship players that everybody's going to be like Theo Asgard or however many duds we've had. Not everybody's going to come in as a Connor Goldson or a Leon Balogun, which is two off the top of my head that have been relatively successful in a Rangers jersey. Going by Rangers standards, that is, relatively successful. A successful Rangers player would be like a Richard Gough or Lorenzo Amoruso. That's a successful Rangers player that's made the grade. Connor Goldson and Balogun only won a couple of trophies between them, so it's hard to put them in that kind of bracket because we need to get back to having proper standards at this football club and expecting to win every week again. But back to Dan Neil, I think that he is very tidy in the ball, tenacious in the tackle. His aura reminds me a wee bit of a Steven Davis, kind of uses his mind quite a bit. Pick a pass. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near as effective going forward as we've seen in Davis's kind of younger years in his first spell at the club. But I think he's going to be a dictator. I think he'll frustrate fans because when fans want to play forward quickly, Dan Neil does now. He likes to kind of keep the ball, get a couple of touches to set up attacks properly. But however, if he's going to play like that, Rangers fans will just need to kind of wrap our heads around it a wee bit, because I think overall long term he's going to be a successful signing for us, Billy. But when I say that, you don't know how McInnes is going to set his teams up. Is it going to be hoofball? McInnes has never had these riches at his disposal before, so are we going to see a winning style of play? Who knows? But overall, I think Dan Neil's going to be a very good and successful signing for Rangers.
Ryan, let's take a step back actually before we talk about all the different players we've got. We lost an awful lot of goals towards the end of last season, and I don't necessarily always blame the defence for that. I blame the midfield an awful lot of the time. Raskin has had a wonderful World Cup, but I feel he hasn't done anything for us in a wee while. What do you think we were needing for this season to change the midfield? What type of players, or what kind of, to suit maybe Derek McInnes' style, what are we looking for?
Solidity more than anything else, Billy. It's, we've spoke often about the spine of the team and how weak the spine of the team right from the start with your goalkeeper. I was quite happy to see the back of Jack Butland, to be honest with you. Thank him for his service. Obviously had a few good saves, but you got to the stage with the goalkeeper that he was saving more things. He was letting more goals in than he should be saving, if that makes sense. There's more ones that I want my Rangers goalkeeper be every week saying, how's he managed to save that? Whereas I was getting to the stage of Butland, I was like, how has he not saved that? There's stuff going through his legs, people shooting with their left foot and stuff like that, weakly, and just going through his legs. Failure to command his area, his distribution was really poor. He just seemed to have mentally checked out Rangers, so I was quite glad to see the back of that. Centre half was obviously a problem as well. We didn't really have a settled pairing as such. Giga obviously came in right towards the very end, but had these frailties. He's made Fernandes look like a bit of a world beater to start with. And Fernandes might be a player that we actually look to cash in on this summer. But it's purely the spine of the team, and I didn't see any kind of real good leadership qualities in there. And then you go right to the kind of centre forward. It's just there were so many things just wrong with the team. The style of play just wasn't apparent either, and I just felt from number 1 right up to number 11, I just felt I didn't have any confidence in the team, and I think that confidence went through the team like a cancer, and I think they lost confidence amongst themselves, and ultimately the last five games of the season were pretty much appalling. You look at the Falkirk game as the last one, we won it and stuff like that, but in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter.
I mean, looking back on the season, if you had to look at it in hindsight, you would probably say, well, that's exactly the way the season was going to go. When you pick a manager that doesn't play the right style of football, that you have to replace a few months in, and then you're trying to make do with a new manager coming in and getting him to make something of the team. And I think we probably finished where I maybe expected us to finish by the time the new manager came in. But that thing you're saying about the spine of the team and leaders in the team, it's certainly something that's been at least beginning to look to being addressed. Dan Neil has been a young captain. Shanklin's a captain, and one of the players we're linked with is also a captain of his team from a young age. We'll come to him later on. But is that a good thing for you? I'm guessing it is. But what I worried about the other day on the pod was that too many of these egos could cause problems in the dressing room. But what do you think?
No, I think that's what we need. We need guys that are actually leaders of men in the back. I'm not looking for guys that are absolutely world class football players. I would rather have somebody that's willing to go in there and actually have the hard conversations, to look at the guy next to him, look him in the eye, and tell him what you're doing today and how you're playing today isn't good enough. When the fans go on your back, they can look back up at the fans and they're not going to shrink into their shirt. Dan Neil is probably an example of that. Sunderland, are a massive club in the northeast of England. You don't have many huge clubs in that kind of neck of the woods, but Sunderland are absolutely huge. They're a sleeping giant of English football. The fact he's taken them from League One into the Championship and obviously got them promotion to the Premier League as a captain at that young age, to wear the armband of that club at such a young age, you don't get that unless you've got something about you. And the podcast that you're talking about, I was lucky enough to interview the guy from the Away the Lads podcast, and he had nothing but good things to say about the lad. They went into the Premier League and he's lost his place to Granit Xhaka, who's one of the best, players in that position in the entire world. The guy's just played a quarter final of the World Cup and, narrowly lost out to Argentina with 10 men on the park. So, Xhaka is a world class footballer. There's no shame in losing your play. That's football at the end of the day. He rated him round about a kind of 15 to maybe even a £20 million football player, and we picked him up for nothing. So he's going to be coming up the road here with something to prove. He's taking the armband in the first friendly of the season as well against Kaiser Chiefs. So it's there in front of him. I just see it as a kind of positive sign. The only thing I'd be kind of wary of is that he did say that on occasion he's got a wee habit of getting caught in the ball. He does like to sit in front of the bench. He's that kind of water carrier, the kind of shield in front of the defence, and on occasion does have a wee habit to dwell on the ball and get caught on the ball. So you'll need to get that out of him quickly enough in Scotland, because in Scotland, as you know, every game is a cup final for Rangers, and he won't get that time to sit on the ball. He needs to sharpen his act up fast and get the ball out to his fullbacks as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm saying that, but what I was worried about is that he sits too close to the. I think you brought it up about sitting too close to the centre halves. I don't think we need that. I think we need a player another good 10, 15 yards further forward than that. But move on for Dan Neil. Scotty brought in Cammy Devlin as well, and we'll maybe talk about him and Connor Barron in the same kind of conversation, because there's heavy links to him going over to Italy. Connor Barron, that is. Do you see Devlin as a kind of straight like-for-like replacement, somebody that's going to break up play, can win the ball back?
Aye. The difference between the pair of them is that Connor Barron's got a high ceiling because he's still a young player, and Cammy Devlin's established at what he can do well. Devlin will go and get the ball and give it to players that can do something in an attacking motive with him. An attacking sense, sorry. I feel as if Cammy Devlin's a a fairly straightforward signing. We need standard setters. Derek McInnes has been seen in various different platforms saying that Devlin does exactly that. It's what's needed at this club. But going back to my original point about Dan Neil, this is about getting Rangers back to being successful. And to do that, you need players like Devlin, Dan Neil, Shankland, Ross McCrory. All these guys need to come in and they're going to tell you if you're playing the part next to them and you're not doing well enough. Rangers teams need to get back to being successful, and we can't just go out and keep signing the likes of Modi Amandi and Raskin. I'm even going to put in that bracket because I don't think Raskin's good enough to be at Rangers anymore either. It needs a complete overhaul of midfield, Billy, and it needs the leadership needs to come for in there too. We've got a captain up front. You've got a captain at the back in McCrory playing every week. You've got a captain in midfield now with Dan Neil. It's exactly the kind of things that you need to see. You need to be, if you're not running fast enough or you're not passing the ball quick enough, you need somebody to shout at you and tell you to go and do that. Cammy Devlin's probably the safest signing we've made this summer for me. I can see Connor Barn moving on. I think the figures quoted on him are a wee bit mental, but if it's true that we can get between 6 and 10 million quid from Eintracht Frankfurt, I wouldn't sell them a fart in a cardboard box right enough. Who's the other team? Bologna. I think there's another Italian team interested in him. So sell him on because I just feel as if any time that Connor Barn has had a run in the team and started to have a positive effect, injuries crept up into spell last season where it happened. Cammy Devlin isn't as injury prone. He's more established. He's an international footballer. It's not a free transfer. Hopefully we get 5 million plus in for Connor Barn, and it's just you're putting the transfer trading model to good use. It's exactly what we should be doing.
It's been a long time since Calvin Bassey's probably the biggest success we've maybe ever had that way. Nathan Patterson as well, but it's very few and far between, Ryan. As regards Devlin though, is he? I'm not saying I didn't want him to come, but I'm also a wee bit worried that we're just going buying McInnes' favourite players.
It's a stopgap, Billy. It's a stopgap. It's a guy that he knows that he can trust. It's a guy that the manager knows what he can provide you on a week-to-week basis. He knows the guy well. He knows his limitations and he knows his abilities. It's purely just a stopgap signing. He signed a 2-year contract with us as well. Uh-huh. He's probably not came to his own absolutely mega money as well. He's probably not in a position where he can demand a high signing-on fee as well. It's purely just a plug there. McInnes will have a 5-year plan, I would imagine, for what he wants this team to look like. And within phase 1, I think Connor Barron will leave the football club. I think we'll look to, if there is a possibility, there's a value attached to him at that kind of, when you're talking in the millions of pounds mark, I think you cash in on him. I look at Connor Barron, I think he's just he's an average Rangers player, being perfectly honest. Don't have anything against the kid, but what does he really truly offer for you in the football park? He doesn't get into the box, he doesn't offer anything in the final third. He breaks things up, he does okay. Like Scotty was mentioning there, whenever he actually gets himself into a kind of rich vein of form and you actually see him as probably one of your starters, he finds himself injured. You look at our direct competition, you look at their midfield, you look at Cal McGregor. Is Connor Barron a better player than Cal McGregor? Be honest with yourself. No. Is he better than Arnie Ingles? Is he better than Rhea Hattati? No. So we've got to have better players on the park than what they've got. So if the opportunity arises that we've got to move him on, let's just do it. He's probably his own aspirations himself. When he came to Rangers, I'd heard a rumour that he was only getting paid about 800 quid a week at Aberdeen before we signed him. So he came to Rangers. He's probably in quite a modest contract at Rangers as well. So if there's an opportunity for him to go out there to Italy, Germany, West Ham apparently are looking at him as well, you're probably talking he's going to get paid 3 or 4 times what we're paying him just now. So I use the phrase mutually beneficial quite a lot on the pod, and I think that just falls under this category where it's the right time for everybody and the right numbers for everybody at the right time.
Scotty, just on Devlin again, there's been kind of not criticism, but pointed out that he gets away with stuff at Hearts that he maybe wouldn't get away with at Rangers. What do you feel about that? You're muted, mate, sorry.
Are you referring to like the bookings and things like that?
Yeah, just the kind of like, I guess his attitude, The way he goes into tackles, that kind of thing, that he maybe won't get away with it.
No issue with it at all. We've not had a bit of bite in midfield for. When was the last time we had a bit of bite? Somebody could actually put in a good tackle in midfield.
Kevin Thompson, probably.
Probably. Tackling's a basic that Rangers haven't had, and probably since Kevin Thompson, as Ryan's referred there. Same as having a winger, I always says, to create a goal and beat a low block, you just need to skin a man. But wingers don't do that anymore either, so we need a winger that can do that. But I've got no qualms about Cammy Devlin at all. I think it's an astute sign. I think he's going to come in and be a very good, effective squad player. He's not going to start every week, which is even better. I think he's going to come in. He's going to help drive standards. The manager trusts him, and I've got full complete in this manager.
See, if you look at a situation, lads, where you're 10 minutes to go, you're holding a 1-0 lead, and you're a wee bit under pressure. Lauren Shanklin's blowing out his backside. You're like, right, get the big man off, stick Cammy Devlin, Cammy, go in there and just break up, please slow the game down for me. Could you go stick one that midfielder that's been causing all the problems for us? No problem, Gaffer. Done.
Yeah, fair dues, right? I mean, it's just, again, I'm maybe kind of buying into not the hype, but buying into the kind of worry that he won't get away with. Yeah, as I say, Scotty's saying the bookings and stuff will mount up and we'll end up not having him. But Ryan, do you see him being one of the players brought in to be a starter, or do you see him being one of these guys that goes up to McDermott Park on a Wednesday night and starts games like that?
It depends where he is, but I mean, I fully expect him to start in a kind of 4-4-2 situation, but as we've seen that he does against us, if things aren't going his way, McInnes is quite happy to switch things into a back three and stick an extra man at the middle of the park to try and gain control of the game. So you would see that. He done it quite, famously against us last season at Tynecastle, where we really needed to go to Tynecastle for a win. Up against it, he sticks players split on the middle of the park there and completely changed the game. He could do that quite easily with Devlin, and then maybe gives one of his other centre midfielders a wee bit more freedom to actually go into the box and play right directly behind one of the two strikers, or behind both the two strikers. So it's there. Does he then adapt into a 4-2-3-1? He plays Cammy Devlin as part of a double pivot in there. He'll have a use for him. He's basically taken a tool from one toolbox and put it into another toolbox, and he'll have a use for him 100%.
Stay with you, Ryan. Another player that came in last season. Excuse me. That's Chuck Whanney. Now, I'd think we could do better than him, but do you think he will still be around with only coming in at Christmas time?
Yeah, I think Tochi's probably going to be one of these ones that's he's going to fall under this kind of infamous player trading model where we'll try and boost up his value, try and get him some kind of exposure, and then look to just shift them on. I think Chuck Whanney, in his own, if he was to get a wee bit criticised his own side of things, he needs to get his fitness levels improved. When he was starting games for us, he did have a habit of disappearing around about the kind of 65, 70 minutes mark. So I would be looking to see him applying himself more on the physical side of his game. Technically, I think he does okay. You seen his goal? I think it was Falkirk as part. Was it a draw? I think we're losing 2-0. Big man scored the goal that got us back into the game. But the thing, what you've now created, you've created a massive competition for places. So if he doesn't raise his game, if he doesn't apply himself, if he doesn't show the right attitude and the right behaviours, he will find himself out the door, and he will find himself going back to possibly Denmark, Austria, one of the Scandinavian leagues. So if it's one of these things, it's a very much a sink or swim scenario, and I have full faith in McInnes and Jim Gillespie and everyone else involved at the football club that if somebody's not pulling their weight, they will find themselves at the bottom of Edmondson Drive looking for a taxi.
Scotty, Chuck Whanney, my thing with him is I don't really know what he's there to do. It's not like he's scoring loads of goals from midfield. I don't feel he's breaking play up. I mean, would you see him? What's his role in the team? He's
one of the signings in January that I had a big, not a beef with, but come towards the end of the season, I was like, what does this guy actually bring to the first team when he's in midfield? What does he do? Is he box to box? Is he a 6? Is he an 8? Ryan's referred to he did score against Falkirk and seems to come up with moments, I would say. But what he can actually offer, I'm still yet to see it. It's not looking good for the big man, I will say. I think that he's not in the same boat as Lisa Cifuentes, but I think he's standing waiting on the boat, if I'm honest with you. I think he's personally, I don't think he's going to be a Derek McInnes midfield. I can see him going with Elisa Diamande, Raskin, hopefully Asgard. I'm praying Asgard gets sold this window.
That's just because he's here, though.
Put it this way, Billy, to me, if he stays, he's going to be right down the pecking order a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? I don't. But then, how many midfielders do we need to be going with 2? We're going to play with a 3. It's really hard to tell, but I do think he will be on the fringes of the midfield department instead of actually in and around the starting lineup every week.
Well, let me keep him and Raskin for a couple of minutes' time because they did both have decent World Cups. And let's talk about a few players that probably won't be here, or maybe hope they won't be here. One of these, actually, I do like. Lyle Cameron, I like, and I would like him to be around. I don't think he will be, though. Mo Diamandi's there as well. You mentioned Cifuentes, Ant-Man. I look down my list here. Ryan, do you see a future for any of these players?
You know, it's been Cifuentes he'll be away. He's got absolutely no interest in being at Rangers, and Rangers have no interest in him being at Rangers either. It's just a case that his agent needs to earn the salary to go out and just get him away. How many games they played for us? Half a dozen or something like that. I think he had a half decent game away out in Betis one night. I think it was December. We won out in Betis 3-2. He did have a good game that night in his defence, but going on to Rangers TV and saying that it's too cold, like, mate, come on. It's so there's no chance for Cifuentes. Asgard, I would ask you. I mean, quite a few. I've heard this kind of thing a couple of times now. People saying Asgard's had a decent World Cup. Asgard's played one game in the World Cup, right? And it was a nothing. It was a nothing game at the end of their group stage where they were playing against France, where they'd already qualified, and they shuffled the entire pack. Like, I think it was only one player who stayed from the Norway team. I think it was a centre midfielder was asked to do a job at right back because both their right backs were injured or ill. And don't get me wrong, he's done a nice wee shuffle and he scored a goal. But for me, one 90-minute game and a bit of a nothing game doesn't constitute a decent World Cup. Raskin, on the other hand, he's obviously got himself into this funny FIFA 11 that they're calling it, that probably his agents probably paid for him to get into knowing FIFA. But he's the big ticket. You know, that's the one there. I think with Raskin, I mean, if you asked Raskin, would you be disappointed if you were still Rangers in the first game of the season? I think, being honest, Raskin would tell you, yes, I'd be disappointed after everything that I've done at the World Cup and stuff. If I was still a Rangers player when the window closed, I think he'd be quite disappointed in himself. So I think we've got to look to sell him. We need the money in for him. It's there. His value is never going to get any better than what it is just now for us. He's only got 2 years left in his contract, so every month that goes past, his value potentially will decrease him, either through performances and not reaching the peak of his World Cup performance, and obviously the time running out his contract. So it's time up for him, definitely. And it's just a case of engineering a move. And by all accounts, by the sounds of things, he's not short of options at the moment.
Right, Scotty, I was going to keep Raskin for later on, but Ryan's brought him up, so we'll go to Raskin. He has had a good World Cup. Do you agree with that at least?
Yeah, I definitely. He's been effective when he's played. It's almost as if he makes that Belgium team tick, if that makes any sense. He's all over the park. It's almost as if his game is suited to playing in a team that's got better players in it. Because when he's trying to play like that for us, it doesn't work, because he's running into all sorts of. He's got about 8 bodies whenever he's trying to make a run, or whether he's trying to go and get. But he's one of these guys that tries to do everything at once and achieves nothing. In a Rangers jersey, it's definitely time to sell him. There's no two ways about it. Has it been a successful signing? Yes. I would say that on the basis of because of the price we're going to demand from now. He's been hot and cold in a Rangers jersey. He's just a bit like Diamandi as well. I put them two in the same bracket. They're good some games. I had one good game and then have 2 bad games, etc., etc. Nico is a player that I think if he was just starting out at Rangers, I think McInnes would work with him and make him into a really good Rangers midfielder. But off the back of that World Cup, it's time to say cheerio and bring in a replacement.
I mean, I think it was always the hope from at least the fan side of things, if not the owners as well, that he goes away gets a good game time. I mean, was he starting? He was coming on about the 50, 60 minute mark in the first couple of games. Well, first game, and then I think he started the second one. But then he certainly kind of became the main player. He wasn't even getting taken off until towards like the 90th minute in the last game or two. So I think he's done us all the best in the world and increasing what we could get for him. That's the next thing. Scotty, what do we look for him to get?
15 to
Club
20.
record here?
Nah, 15 to 20 million.
You sure? Right, okay.
I know he's just half a back at a good World Cup, but he's been inconsistent at club level. Nobody can tell me otherwise. He had one really, really good spell under come on, and then when Barry came in as well, he had another good spell. Looks like he's filling his potential. But what did he do last season? Did I fall out with Russell Martin? Come back in, done. I can't really recall a good game under Danny Rowe. So no, 15 to 20 million, I think he's ceiling, and I think it's considering we signed him for 1.25, it's a good return. It's a good move all round.
It is a good return, Ryan, if that is the figures. I think I just was maybe being kind of dazzled by some of the things online when you see 2025 rather than 15-20, but it'd still be a fantastic fee to get for him, although I do believe there'll be some kind of sell-on money due to his old club. But if he does go, I guess he goes with our best wishes. I agree with Scott. I think he only had he had a purple period in the beginning, and then he played well under Barry, playing a wee bit further forward, but he doesn't seem to like to play that further forward role, despite maybe actually being better at it. For us, anyway.
I mean, I think there was one, I don't even know if it was last season, the season before, he scored that goal at Parkhead where he's managed to get himself. He had that kind of wee spell where he was winning front post headers for a while. And for a while, he was actually the most dangerous guy in the box for us, even though he was probably the shortest one for us. So
did he not score against Dundee a similar goal as well?
Aye, yeah, I think the return game when he obviously fell out with Martin and he found himself back in the squad, I think he scored a goal as a front post header, that one. So it's just a wee attribute that he seemed to have developed for himself, and he's done quite well out of it. Maybe working with the set piece coach, maybe they brought that in with between them or something. But is he a stalwart Rangers player? I see him potentially at the top of the marble staircase as a Hall of Famer. No chance. So for me, he's not lit himself up in lights as that, a guy that I'll remember that he's won his X amount of league trophies. He's won there. There's always going to be that kind of controversial thing where he's got too much to say for himself apparently in and around the training ground. He's fallen out with managers, habit of disappearing in games, just not effectual enough there, and we actually probably don't really know what his best position is for us. If you can get a fee around about kind of 15-20 million pound from you, rip their arm off and go for it. We just need somebody to go first. We need this World Cup to get finished and get put to bed, and then we need the checkbooks to start getting open from clubs abroad and them getting themselves back into training and stuff. And we're obviously in very early because all these kind of early European qualifiers that we've got to do. So you probably find that Scotland are actually one of the earliest clubs or the earliest countries to get their clubs back in for pre-season. Your likes of your England, all your top leagues, Italy, Germany, Spain, all that stuff, they're probably still on the beach at the moment. So, but we just need to create some sort of bidding war. It'll be interesting to see. I dare say we'll probably have eyes coming to us from across the city, and actually they'll be looking to see what we can get for Raskin if they decided they want to cash in on Engels, and they'll probably use Raskin as a comparison to what they can get for that kind of fee for him. But like Scotty said, it's just time's up. It's what more if Nico Raskin did stay at Rangers? What is he going to achieve? Where's he going to fit in? What difference is he going to make to the team now that he couldn't make to the team over the last 2-3 years for us? We need fresh faces. We need a new chapter in the book opened, and it's let's just get the money in for him.
Right, Scotty, we get Connor Barden, say we get 5 million for him, which I think would be fairly fair, and we get the best part of 15-20 million for Raskin. Do you spend that on one player? And I think the player we're talking about.
Aye, 100%, 100%. You bring Lewis Ferguson in, you make him your captain. You build a team with him. Is it going to happen? The longer time goes on, the less chance I think we've got to bring them in. I'm a bit concerned because we're in for Hetro Dahl and Dragovic as well. That makes me think that Rangers only prioritising Lewis Ferguson is like a an immediate kind of transfer target or their top target, if that makes any sense. I think he's one on a list. And I think certain things need to happen for that to happen. I mean, many midfielders have we got just now. You've got Diamande, Chuck Wane, Dan Neil, Lyle Cameron, and there's 4 already. Cammy Devlin, 5.
Raskin.
15 on the books currently, 4 rumoured.
Oh, well, there you go. Like, so there needs to be a lot of moving parts. We need a lot of departures before we can bring Ferguson in. Personally, I think if it was going to happen, there would have been more noise about it. But now, I think there's interest, but how strong our interest is, I don't know.
There's no denials though, Scotty, from either side.
No, there's no denials. But if we're in competition, AC Milan could get and put a bid in from Imora. What are Rangers going to do then? Because we're not going to sign Dahl and Dragovic until we sell a couple of players. So where does that leave us? Asking Bologna at Hod Half to make my mind up. Do you know what I mean? Anything can happen. I would love it to happen. Trust me. I would feel as if Rangers were finally on their way back. If we were to go out and sign a player like Lewis Ferguson and Eliza, Dan Neil and Ben Godfrey, there's a real staunchness about these signings. It's probably not a correct word I should be looking to use there. But
they're captain material, so it's that kind of attitude.
But it makes me feel as if we're starting to get our act together, and that started with the appointment of Jim Gillespie and then Derek McInnes getting the job. Like, we're looking to go back into the days where we're winning trophies every year now, where we're winning 1 trophy every 2 or 3 years, and whether it be a Scottish Cup or a League Cup, Ryan mentioned the Hall of Fame. Nico Raskin should be nowhere near Hall of Fame ever.
I don't think he will be.
But I can understand Tav getting into it because Tav captained us through a lot of bad teams. It was service alone gets him into it. But I think we need to get that standard back up where getting into the Hall of Fame needs to be really, really, really hard for players. They need to be successful. Mo Diamande, Nico Raskin, they're not good enough to be Rangers players because we would have won more trophies by now if they were. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm remembering now what it was like when we were winning trophies every season and how high the bar had to be and what type of signings you had to make. And Raskin's never ever fell into that category for me. What was your question again, Billy?
Just if you think it was worth the money. I'll tell you what I think. I agree with you. Like, I would love him to be here, and I think it would be a great story for his family's point of view, from Rangers' kind of history point of view of him coming to Rangers, and as you say, being the captain. I just think that's too much money on one player when we've got so much other. See if we had, 9 other positions with the best player in the league, then go ahead and do it. But say he gets injured after the first couple of months, and we've spent the best part of 20 million on him. I think it's too much of a risk.
I think it's a risky take, to be honest with you, because he's another standard setter. Of referring back now to Derek McInnes on open goal when he was talking about Lewis Ferguson and never they're up to run. Always marking Morelos and Edward at corners, done all the nasty jobs that was asked of him. He's a Ferguson as well. There's a bit of sentiment in that. For a Rangers fan perspective. I'm all for it. If it happens, I would love it. Do I expect it to happen? No, I don't expect it to happen because I think there's too many moving parts and nothing started moving yet. So I'm starting to get concerned about whether the transfer is actually possible or not. I don't know what you think, Ryan.
See, for me, mate, I think we're only about 3 signings away from having a right good team. I'll be honest, and I think the Ferguson one for me is just purely economics. I think if you phoned up Lewis Ferguson, we've agreed a price of Bologna. We're going to give you Tav's level of wages. The captain's wages are available. So you're talking a £35,000 a week contract over a 5-year period, potentially for him. Back to there, it would be very hard for Lewis Ferguson to say no to that. So I'm led to believe he's not in the world's greatest wages in Bologna. Bologna are one of the kind of higher paid clubs in Serie A. He's not in the rumours £70,000 a week that Billy Gilmour's might be picking up at Napoli. So, and if you actually kind of look at your midfield, if you had the boy, Vlajevic, the boy for Belgrade, sorry, I always forget his name. If you've got an option with him, Dan Neil, the boy Dal Ferguson in there with Devlin coming in potentially as a utility player. That's a right kind of good core. The boy Dal looks as if he can get forward and score goals. With Ferguson complement that really well. You've then got Neil and you've got the other boy in there who's options for, stifling midfield, and you've got Devlin in there. He can just be your secret weapon if you need him to come in and see games out. Where I think we probably need to strengthen is the wide positions. The jury's still very much out on JD Gassama, and if I see JD Gassama on the right hand side of the Rangers midfield, I swear to God, I'm going to jump off the club deck. I'm going to banjo somebody. It just cannot happen for JD Gassama to play in the right wing for Rangers. I think Ant-Man's had a rough ride. I think if you actually see Ant-Man in spells, you've seen him in his first game where he started against Victoria Plitzen. He seemed very direct. He seemed to have quite a good relationship with two Romans on the left-hand side when they linked up as well. So I think there's still a chance for Ant-Man in there. I want to see more of Finlay Curtis as well. Bajrami's still contacted to the club, and Bajrami might just be somebody we were talking about characters and leadership, and somebody who's actually got a bit about themselves. If the Dean Bajrami's not up for a square goal, he's probably the only Albanian in the world who's not. So it's a case that there might be potentially just guys in the building who have just had a rough ride, who have just been surrounded by the wrong people, who've been getting coached the wrong way, getting used the wrong way, and 2 or 3 more signings, and we actually might just be ready to go here. If you actually look at the numbers that are there, I still think we need another right back. I think we need another centre half or another centre midfielder. I'm happy with our strikers. If we go in with Shanklin, Majowski, Nadiri and Chermiti, for me that's great. You get an £8 million signing in Chermiti, who started to show that he's got more. 5 years ago, if you told me that you had Shanklin, Majowski, they were the 2 best strikers in the Scottish Premier League within the last kind of few years, and all of a sudden they're playing in blue jerseys now. And Brian Nadiri's an emerging talent. Maybe he's going to be your fourth choice striker. But I'm happy with the striker options that we've got. I have no concerns over that at all.
Where I'm concerned, Ryan, is I think you're right that's a good enough strike force to win the league. I don't think there's enough creativity that we've got at the moment, and so I'd be looking for more creativity as well. As you're saying, 3. I agree with you, 3 right back, centre half, midfielder as well. But I think we need a bit more creativity. Let's look at you've mentioned them. I've got them separated off there by Rami, Ant-Man, Curtis, Gassama, and McCausland. For me personally, Scotty, it's Curtis is the only player I'll be happy to see next season. I wouldn't care if any of the rest of them were not there.
Aye, it's a fair point. I can't really disagree with any. I thought when Ant-Man came in, as Brian referred to here, against Victoria Pilsen, I thought we've got what a player here. He was absolutely unreal. But then he just signed that day, and Russell Martin hadn't properly get his claws into him yet. So he showed us what he was really about after it. So, is there a future for Ant-Man? Aye. What kind of wingers does McInnes like? Take Kizaridis into example. He likes his wingers to be able to beat a man and put a good ball into the box. Likes him to contribute goals. Finlay Curtis, I would say, can do all that. Gassama, he'll probably be going, I would imagine. I've not even seen him in any training pictures or nothing. I've not seen anything. He's almost like as if he's a forgotten man. There could be something for Ant-Man. He did have good numbers in the Dutch league, but the Dutch league's starting to become a bit of like, it's like we've been linked to this MLS defender every night. We're recording, obviously, but you just think James Sands and Cifuentes, and you immediately think we shouldn't be buying fair. No, I look at Dessers, Danilo, Ant-Man, Robin Proper being another. The Dutch league hasn't worked for us the last few years. So is there something in that? I don't know. I suppose we'll not know until we get my first team lineup in 3 weeks, Billy Boy.
The thing I would say, we always go back to that Pilsen game because he had loads of space to run into, and I think that's what he's used to. In the Netherlands, having a lot of space to run into, whereas in Scotland, it's not his fault. He just doesn't get that against most of the teams. So Ryan, you were saying you do want him to be around. Am I right? Sorry.
I'd be quite happy for him to stay. You've got to remember on the right-hand side of the park who he's playing in front of as well. He's playing in front of an aging James Tavernier. And Tav, respect his service and all this kind of stuff, but he ran out of legs. So when when he gets himself in a situation when he maybe finds himself 2-on-1, then he was relying on somebody overlapped him. You've seen the amount of times that a successful partnership with Borna Barisic and Ryan Kent more often than not had 2 guys marking him. But you had Borna Barisic constantly giving overlaps and throwing balls into the box and crosses in. I dare say Ant-Man probably is that kind of player where you need somebody that's helping him with this overlap. And if he plays him on the left-hand side, Romans will help him with that all day. I think we've maybe forgotten a lot about how good a potential signing to Romans is. He had that wee spell where he was out injured after he did get signed, but by all accounts, when he was playing, he looked like an absolutely fantastic player. So I think we've got to remember that that's potentially something that we could look at on that side. I'd be happy to give Ant-Man another crack at it, but I'd be okay with that. Gassama, if a decent bid come in north of £7 million, just take it. I think Monaco might be quite interested in him. Maybe somebody from Spain as well, Sevilla maybe. I'm making that up, but I think there was interest in Spain as well for him. And again, it's just taking that money in, Billy, and just recycling. Finlay Curtis, you're going to get absolutely everything out of that boy if he plays. He's going to give you everything he's possibly got. By all accounts, if he can reproduce his form for Rangers that he did for Kilmarnock there, aye, great. But it's keeping things fresh and giving people options. I'm looking for the kind of old philosophy that you've got two players for every single position, and both players are equally as good as each other. That's what we need at Rangers. That's what I'm after. And an influx of youth players that we get ourselves in a situation where we put teams to bed early like we always used to do, 2-3-0 up, and then we can start to give guys minutes and stuff like that. You get your young team on. Like say your Finlay Curtis is the obvious one there, but you still get the guys like Xander Hutton still in the building there. Get these guys on and give them minutes there, because you're never going to find out if they're ever going to be ready, if they're ever going to be enough if you don't.
Scotty, we'll talk a wee bit about Barami for a minute, because I just feel he's shown good signs here and there. I guess he set up Finlay Curtis the other night there against Kaiser Chiefs with that goal come shot, but I've just never seen him get a proper. It's not even his fault. He's not really had a proper run. I think he's only even scored one goal. So I don't know. What do you see for him next season? For me, I'd be offloading him if we can.
Nah, he needs to go. Needs to go for me. He did have a run in the team when he first signed under. Come on, remember he was getting played wide left. Everybody was shouting for him to get a game as a number 10. He played as a number 10, and then he was non-existent for me. He did. It's another one of the spell last season. I think he scored a penalty at Tannadice to get us an equaliser in the last minute. Had a spell, picked up an injury following match. As your Redian said to me when he was raised, he said that Albanians are consistently inconsistent, and I think that pretty much sums Nadine Bayrami's time at Rangers up. So I'd like to offload him. I reckon you get a couple of £1 million from team of that will come in from lower end of the table. I'd imagine you'll be able to recoup something, but it would be a shaky hand. Thanks, but no thanks. But could they get a turn under McInnes? You never know. There's always somebody that tends to back up under a certain manager. You never know, but to me it looks as if he's not out the door yet, but I would say he's probably one on a list to go.
Ryan, that reminds me, Graham Souness didn't just chuck everything out the first season they came in. He used the best of what he had and supplemented it with even better players from the English market. Is that what you think is going to happen this year? Maybe not the English market, obviously, but supplement what we've got. Maybe go with folk like Ant-Man and Gassama and just have a couple other, dotted in not world class, you know what I mean, but league winners in that team.
I think you've got to, Bill. You can't just go in and include the financial fair play rules and stuff like that restrict you from getting in there and wiping out your entire squad and replenishing it. So it has to be kind of transitioned there. I expect us to get back into the loan market as well. I think we'll probably get the loan market used. If we're talking about wingers and creativity and stuff like that, how incredible would it be if we managed to get Mikey Moore back up the road for another season? That would be something I'd really, that's a right big signal of intent if we can manage to get the wee man back up the road. As far as finding someone to play on the left-hand side is concerned and complement Romans, Mikey Moore would be incredible. I don't know what Spurs' intention is. So they've obviously managed to stay in the Premier League by their fingernails. Will they want him to go out into the continent and start getting a kind of more technical side of his game improved and start going out to maybe like a German team, possibly another Dutch team or something like that? But if we could get him back up the road, I'd be really pleased with that.
See, Billy, if you think about it, I mentioned Kazaridis earlier on. Kilmarnock, McInnes got a good turn at Danny Armstrong that was there. I don't know if you remember him. He ended up going to Romania. And then there was Niall McGinn at Aberdeen previously as well. they're all similar players in the fact that they can beat a man in their goal scorers too. So, to me, if we could get two of them in both sides of the park, when's the last time Rangers had that, really?
You've just got to get the ball into the box, Scotty. If you get the ball into the box, Locke and Shanklin will deliver you goals. It's as simple as that. And even Chermiti, to a certain extent, seen his overhead kick last season against Celtic. If you put the ball into the box, our strikers will find the back of the net.
Aye, I know. I'm just referring back to the type of wingers that McInnes likes, and I don't think we've really got any of them just now, apart from Finlay Curtis. Gassama on his day can maybe do it, but apart from that, that's another department you need to rip out and start again, if that makes any sense, if you're talking about midfield.
Do you think it's fair judging Gassama, though, because he was constantly played on the wrong wing? From my point of view, anyway.
He looked really good under Russell Martin at the beginning, in the European qualifiers. As if he was the only player that could actually do something, if I'm being honest. And then, I don't know what Danny Rule done to him, but the boy was bereft of confidence, and it looked as if he was bereft of ability as well, if I'm being honest with you, Billy. Wasn't he starting every week? I think that's a problem for Gassama. I think he needs an arm room, and he's told that he's going to be one of the main creative players at the club, and he wasn't under Danny Rule. So it's difficult to say, but Club Bruges, when we done by interviews with the Clocker boys, he was asking me off camera. He knew Bruges were interested in Gassama. So will there be interest? I think Villarreal were linked in January too. So will there be interest? Probably. Ryan, you want to come in?
No, that's who it was. I remember there was interest in Spain, but I couldn't remember who it was.
It was Villarreal. So £2 million signing. Is he somebody you could sell on for 5 to 10 million and again play a trading model, or is it somebody that you rejuvenate and rehab a wee bit? Because we all know he can play on his day, he's just really, really inconsistent. Something I remember Walter saying about wingers is that wingers are always going to give you good and bad games. They're never a 7 out of 10 every week. The only 7 out of 10 out of a week he only ever seen was Brian Laudrup. Do you know what I mean? So it's difficult. It's a difficult one with Gassama, but it's interesting that we've not seen him in any pre-season pictures or nothing, Billy. I've not seen him anyway, unless I'm mistaken.
No, I've not noticed
attitude, guys. To be honest, sometimes I just seen his attitude at the start of games that if he didn't start a game well, I just think he just absolutely fell apart. Sometimes I just thought he was absolutely rotten. His best performance with me quite often were coming from off the bench. I just feel sometimes as if he just looked as if he just couldn't be bothered being it there.
But then, Ryan, that's why you've got like a Shanks up front now. He's going to give that leadership and he's going to give Gassama a kick up the backside. That's where I think we're going to be different next season, and we can see a lot more for certain players that have only been there for one season, played under two managers, and i.e. Gassama. But it's really, really difficult to tell, isn't it? Because we've not seen Rangers properly yet.
The thing is, it must be a really difficult dressing room to be a part of as well. See, when you've got all these guys that, they were spoke about this leadership team and how negative it was with your Tav, Butland, John Sutton, all this kind of stuff. It's well known that these guys just weren't up to a task of leading their football club. And it must be really difficult being part of that, going to your work every day and everything about the building's completely negative. Your manager who signed you in the first instance gets bagged after just a few months. And then the next guy that comes in, by all accounts, didn't do very, very well either, just kind of carried the can over to the end of the season. So I sympathise with the situation. Likes of Ant-Man and stuff, that's why I'm willing to give them another crack at the whip. It's guys like, speaking about John Sutter and stuff like that, Jack Butland, who we mentioned earlier on, that have had far too many cracks at the whip. They just need to get themselves out of the building. They need to go. There's basically no credit left in the bank. You're checking out, pal. I'm really sorry. It's like every time I see you, all I think about is previous performances and previous failures, and I want you going.
Scotty, World Cup's about to kick off in a couple of minutes for us, so I'll wrap things up. But you were the one that mentioned coming on talking about the midfield. So Zed, we've not talked about that you fancied covering.
No, we've pretty much covered it. I've got everything off my chest I really wanted to put across tonight. I think that guys like Diamande, Raskin, Badrami, let's see all the players that have been there for more than a year, they need to be sold on because they're not good enough. We need to. Gerrard done something similar when he came in, Billy. He So the likes of Greg Docherty, if I remember rightly, and I remember me sitting back at the time going, don't mind wee Doc, I thought there was a wee bit more about him. Turns out I was wrong, Gerrard was right. McCrory went. You know, you were shocked at so many players that left, and I think that McInnes is dead on in everything he's doing and has done so far, so long may it continue. Because it's good to finally have a manager, Charles, that I can wholeheartedly say I expect us to win the league this season, because you've not got some dafty that's come in for a foreign country that's got to go to Tannadice and go, all right, so that's what it's like to play McInnes is here, he's a season pro, he knows what it takes to win in this league, so I fully expect him to put really, really tough, hard-earned pros in among a glitter of foreign talent who'll keep the trading model ticking over. So I was referring to like Cammy Devlin. He's one of the hard-earned pros that's in there now that knows what's expected, knows the level. So I am all for everything the manager's doing.
Scotty, you turn your mic back on because I'm going to stay with you. As I mentioned, our sponsors, the Bluebells Bar in Puerto del Carmen, where you can eat, drink, chill and party, watch all the Rangers games, and Kenny will look after you out there. Now, you've been in there personally. You let us know what that place is like and how much fun we're going to have when we go.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's outstanding. It's outstanding. Me and the wife took the kids in last year for an hour and we ended up there all afternoon. Kenny pulled toys and everything for events to play with. There really is something for everybody in there. You can just sit and chill it. His food's excellent as well. It's a not bad view when you sit looking onto the water as well. So I'm fully behind everything that Kenny's doing. I'm happy that he's able to sponsor a podcast. I went out and visited the Baker's Arms when I was in Cyprus there as well. Met Greg. He's been out there for 20 plus years. I think his dad, he was telling me, was a famous Cypriot baker. ChatGPT, even when I typed it in, was saying, ask for Simon and ask him for some apparently pub sale pies. Ask him for some of his pies, but unfortunately his dad wasn't here that day. But Greg, again, look, staunch, looked after a family, made us feel welcome, and just a big shout out. Go on, head on over to Facebook and give them a wee follow. But I'm getting Rooney's Rangers pubs every year, Billy.
You're out scouting for us, mate. It's all business expenses, I suppose. Ryan, again, mate, is anything we've not mentioned about the midfield would you fancy bringing up?
No, mate, nothing that we can talk of very quickly just in the next couple of minutes here. We'd be here all night if you wanted to start getting into things. But I'll be away myself. I'm away on Saturday. I'm going to Tenerife, so I'll be in the Ibrox Bar at Costa Deque over the next kind of week or so. So if anyone's out to see me, give me a wee hello, please. Pick me up if I'm down, if you don't mind.
Well, guys, thanks for coming on. Thanks for the idea, Scotty. Thanks, Ryan, for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And this has been the Rangers Journal, talking about the midfield, the Rangers next season. You can check out the shows this week. I've got the quick Q&A show on Thursday. Andrew's back with the Ibrox channel on Friday. And we might try and pepper in a couple of other pods here and there as well. Maybe Ryan will like to come and talk about the World Cup with me. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Remember, every night is Rangers Journal night. See you.
Every night is the Rangers Journal night.